Hey everyone. I've got to give you some unpleasant and abrupt news. 2 nights ago, Wren died. She went into a very steep decline. And when we noticed that something was wrong, she was gone less than 3 hours later. It was, like I said, abrupt. Shockingly abrupt. When we opened her up after she passed, because that's what we do whenever we have a cat pass, especially a cat that we don't really know what happened. And with her, that was extremely unexpected. Not the way that any of us here were envisioning our evening to go. But we did a necropsy, and when we opened her up, she had a lot of blood inside of her, and she had a liver that was unlike anything that we'd ever seen. It had a lot of strange growth on it. It wasn't just something that happened in a short period of time, that had taken a while to materialize, to the point where it appears as if the structural integrity of the liver itself, and then like some of the artery systems to the liver, basically just broke apart. And it appears that it led to some pretty significant hemorrhaging. So she basically sprung some very serious leaks inside, and her body wasn't able to sustain that loss of blood. Like I said, her liver looked unlike anything that we've seen. It might be a certain type of cancer, possible. There's a couple other kind of conditions that could cause it. Like certain types of hepatitis, possibly. But there were parts of her liver that seemed normal, and then over half of it that was very much so not like it should have been. And it's definitely one of those things where, of course, you see all the blood that's inside of her abdomen, and then we start pulling the liver out, and we're like, we're pretty sure that did it. Yeah. She was snuffling within about a half hour of when she passed. And it was the other night. We were feeding. And we were driving up this way with meat in the bucket. And as we were driving by, all the cats were doing their normal thing, running back and forth, waiting for their turn. And Wren was here. And she seemed completely disinterested She looked like she was not doing well. She looked like she was uncomfortable. That's when I noticed, like, oh, something's not right. So we finished feeding the cats that we had, and I got on the phone. I called Heidi right away. Said something's not right with Wren. We gotta. I'm thinking we need to get her into a transport cage, and Heidi's like, okay. So got everything all connected. Jessica got the transport cage ready. Heidi and I finished all the rest of the feed. We wanted to feed all the cats, then try to take care of Wren. By the time we got down, Wren had moved over here. Heidi got down, was talking to her, and was snuffling with her. And she was snuffling back. And then we're like, okay, we got to get you up. We got to get you to move over here. We're going to try to get her to go inside one of the lockdowns so we could bring the transport cage in, get it up to one of these doors, get her to go in. At this time, we were thinking maybe she had like just a stomach ache. Maybe she had some sort of internal infection. Maybe a pyometria. We were thinking that, okay, this seems like it's, significant and concerning. We tried to get her locked up. She was just weak. She was barely able to. She eventually did get up and kind of moved her way over here. Heidi was talking to her. Again, Wren was snuffling. She was snuffling at Heidi. She gave a snuffle to me. She was a good girl, but she was hurting. And she got back up. She went over, laid back down. We couldn't get her to go into the lockdown. This time we were like, Heidi had already been on the phone, calling over to the vet clinic, giving them status reports, giving them updates on what had been going on. We got a blanket. I came up to the roof and actually dropped it down on her. So she had a blanket on her. And she stayed there. And then we're like, look, she's not loading up. We're just gonna have to keep on trying to come on and check on her. Sometimes it's like you have to kind of like go away and come back and go. Like the cats, sometimes if you're trying to get them to get up and move when they're not wanting to move, like one of the worst things you can do is just to keep like, hey, keep on trying. It's like, no, give them a break, come back. And it's just you do things in spurts. And then with the understanding that like, yeah, we're gonna have vet visit at some point in the morning. So we went inside, and when I stayed with her for a little bit longer, I was talking to her, saying just like, okay, love you bunches. Try to hang on. Whatever this is. She, by now she had moved over here. She still had the blanket on her. So I had a headlamp hat on. And, as I remember, she was laying in here. And I remember like kind of looking back. And then she had like, the blanket was covering half of her head. So I could only see the glow of one of her eyes coming back. Told her I loved her. Went to the house. Had, talking to Heidi, hatching game plans, all that stuff. And saying like Heidi was gonna give an update to Jamie. I was gonna call Melissa. Tell her like, hey, Wren's not doing so good. But I'm like, you know what, let me go first, just like check on her. before I give Melissa a call. And came back out. And this is maybe about like 25 minutes later. So from the time that we left, and we'd been working with her for a couple hours trying to get her to go. So we left. 25 minutes later, I came back. She moved from there, and she was laying in there. And with my headlamp, when I was standing over here, I was looking inside. And I was thinking, I don't know if she's breathing. I grabbed some other stronger flashlights and shined them through the fence, looking in there, just staring, looking for that, even just a like if her breathing had gotten super shallow. It just didn't look like it. Didn't look like it. So that's when you start doing the hey, Wren, trying to make noise, trying to do stuff, no twitches, no nothing. I make my way in here, pick up some rocks, nothing. I'm gonna start pulling on her tail, smacking her back leg. And it's like, you know, the whole time I'm just like, all right, I'm like right this close to this tiger. There's that part of it's just like, if she wakes up, like, this is, you know, I'm not in the best of positions right now, but I hope she wakes up. But I knew, you know, I knew. She's 10 years old. She's 10 years old. And of course, anytime anything like this happens, we start asking, hey, what have you noticed the last few days? Well, I noticed this, I noticed that. You know what? There was actually this one moment where I kind of looked over, and then she was kind of doing a little thing, and I was kind of like thinking, I don't know what's going, you know, like there's a lot of that kind of going on. Everyone had like, okay, well, you know, like I remember her, because even like some of the things I filmed, she had been kind of laying down. I don't know if she was like at what level, if she was feeling or experiencing any kind of discomfort at that point. I'm not entirely sure. I do know that that morning, because again, she had been up and kind of moving around, Jessica was giving meds to the boys that morning, and Wren was sitting next to the fence and just chuffing at her, just chuffing and snuffling. So that's why we think that maybe like she was kind of like having some internal ouchie, but then at some point during like midday into like sometime afternoon, some sort of internal plumbing popped in a bad way, and she started bleeding, and she started filling up with blood, with fluid, getting really uncomfortable, which would explain why she went from being like, oh, seems to be doing okay, to all of a sudden very, very not okay. But yeah, that's the, I remember I had the time signature of it. I took a video of Munch. He was being really cute. We were feeding some, hold on. We were feeding some larger pieces to Sydney and Rasa. And we had another load that was going to go to Nye and Shanti, and then another one that was going to go over to the remaining babies, Luca and Jake. I took a video of Munch basically kind of army crawling on the ground as Jessica drove around to the tractor, and I looked at that video, and it was about 5:26, 5:27 in the evening. So we fed Nye and Shanti, immediately came by this way. And that's when we noticed. Wren. She doesn't look good. Uh-oh. So right about that 5:30. Right about 5:30. And she was gone by about 8:15. 8:15, 8:20. Or at least that's when I went to check on her. And when I put hands on her, she still had warmth. So she wasn't gone for too long. I'm hoping that it wasn't too uncomfortable for her. That when you have like massive blood loss like that, you just kind of you just really just kind of become just like more dissociated, and you just drift. You just drift away. I'm really hoping that that's kind of what happened. That she stopped feeling the discomfort from her abdomen filling. And that the endorphin part of her head was able to kind of kick in. All I know is that it was quick. And the shape of her insides, the shape of that liver, like, there ain't nothing that we could have done. It was her last day. Regardless. We would have gotten her into a transport cage. We would have gotten her over to the vet clinic. It was her last day. Like, I'm surprised she made it as long as she did with the liver that she had. That kind of goes along with, we've had different cats where they're able to mask these types of things. They're able to live with these types of things. And they don't really show it. It's not that they're just putting on a brave face. They're just naturally tough animals. And they're like, oh, well, I have a bit of a stitch in my tum. So the fact that it was such like a bolt of lightning from the clear sky, we got clouds right now, but that's kind of what it was like. It was just so random, and just bam, here it is. Here's a reality that you weren't expecting, that you weren't asking for. Here it is. So in that regard, it's hard to even really properly like process it as even a thing that is just real. I mean, it is. Jessica and I, we did paw prints, which is that's the that's like the ritual. It's a ritual. It's a ritualized tradition that we do. When we have a cat pass, we take paint and we put them on canvases, their paws. We have them down in the barn. And that's just a thing that we do. It's like our last way of kind of saying goodbye. It's like there's paint on them, there's paint on us, I don't know, there's something about it. This one definitely sucks. We just lost Peaser. But that seemed to have been, more in line with like the natural way of things, the natural order. He was old. He had cancer. Of course, sometimes these animals, they they get diseases, they get bad organs, they have like a bad genetic roll of the dice that just gives them bad organs, like Wally. And it's like they have these things kind of growing inside of them, these ticking time bombs. But on the outside, you'd never know. Because on the outside, they just look perfect. They snuffle. And they look like they're happy. They look like they're having a good time. You know, I wonder now. You know how she used to kind of like do that weird thing where she'd kind of jump, run, and then she would do that, and then she'd kind of like go and like bite at the back of her leg. I wonder. Because again, like that liver, it was way bigger than a normal liver's supposed to be. It had a bunch of like, again, just like really like hardened kind of growth mass. And I wonder if like parts of it were actually then like affecting, you know, like nerve function. I don't know. There's a lot of coulda or what if, or not even so much. No, it's not even so much what if. It's like more of like, hey, like what is the full makeup of like the thing that took place or the thing that happened. So not expecting to lose sweet girl. I told Heidi, who was on the phone with Jamie, and then I called Melissa. And that is never a pleasant phone call. When you have to let someone know that their special cat, the sparkle in their eye. Yeah. And my heart goes out to her, to Melissa, still. Because I know what that's like, being away and getting that news and not being able to be there, even though there ain't nothing you could have done. It just still stinks. Is what it is. Melissa picked the color patterns for the paw prints. Yeah, we did. I was happy that she was able to at least be part of that memorialization, to be part of that ritual. That's important. We sent the liver pieces off to be sampled, see what they are specifically. What happened to her liver? What caused it to get like that, to get so bad? And we'll let you know as soon as we figure it out. But in the meantime, just think about Wren and think about the people that loved her. And think about just some of the good memories that you have of her. And that's all I got. I'll talk to you folks later. Take care.